Okay guys, this is slide 2 in our World War I unit, U.S. neutrality. As we mentioned at the end of the last slide, President Wilson's main goal during his first term in the beginning of this war is to keep the United States out of it. In fact, he will run for re-election with the campaign slogan, "He kept us out of the war," because he did in the early years. So in this slide, let's talk about sort of why. And really, bottom line, it has to do with money. The U.S. is making a lot of money at the beginning of this war because we are selling to both sides. We're trading with Great Britain and we're trading with Germany, both. So we're making a nice little profit. American industrialists are very happy because they're selling record amounts of goods. And that would have continued had it not been for the British. The British began to blockade German ports, and when U.S. ships would approach German ports, the British ships, warships, would steer them away from there and toward a British port. So really it's but we're forced to choose a side, and we choose the Allied side because that's who we can trade with. That's who we can make some profit off of. So Germany was free to trade with the U.S. early on in the war, but it couldn't because of the British blockade. Now, in retaliation for the British blockades of the sea lanes into Germany, Berlin announced a submarine war area around the British Isles. German U-boats, they were called. Unterseeboot is the German word. Underwater boat, literally is how it translates. So they're called U-boats, underwater boats. They're submarines. Now, these aren't the first submarines, but they're the first really practical, workable submarines to be used in warfare, and they are a miserable way to make a living as a submariner on one of these U-boats. But that being said, German subs did patrol the seas around the British Isles, and the Germans said they would try to not sink neutral shipping, meaning U.S. ships. But mistakes could happen, and we can't, guarantee we won't accidentally sink a U.S. merchant ship. We'll try to restrict our attacks to warships, but mistakes happen. Wilson urged the Germans that they would be held accountable for any mistakes that happened. And one of those occurs on May 7, 1915, the Lusitania is attacked and sunk by German U-boats. Here you see the front page from the New York Times. Okay? Ultimately, almost 1,200, 1,198. So we can say about 1,200 are dead when the Lusitania is attacked and sunk, including 128 Americans. So of those 1,200, 128 of them were Americans sailing from New York to the British Isles. The Lusitania was a cruise ship, a passenger ship, as you can see in the picture here. Think, like Titanic sort of ship. There also you see the headlines, sunk by submarine, sinks in 15 minutes, Frohman and Vanderbilt missing. That is the grandson of Cornelius Vanderbilt, the Commodore that we talked about in our Industrial Revolution unit. This is his grandson that was killed. Alfred was his name. Died in the attack. Okay? Now, the Germans claimed that the Lusitania was actually carrying ammunition, therefore making it a warship. Turns out it was. The Americans, the British, were using passenger ships to get ammunition and weapons across the Atlantic to Germany. Passengers had no idea the cargo hold of the Lusitania was full of weapons. But Germany has spies in America. They have spies in Britain, all over the place, just like the British have spies everywhere in Germany. So it was discovered that the Americans and the British were doing this. We got caught, and they argue if it's shipping goods of war, it is a warship and is able to be attacked. So it was. So we have now got some skin in the game, and we'll see if that makes a difference.